Imagine a war elephant on the battlefield in 250 BC, Carthage versus the Romans. 3 tons, 4 meters at the shoulder, skin 2 fingers thick, tusks capable of flipping carts like kindling. When such a beast charges your formation, you don't think about tactics. You don't think about the centurion's orders. You think about one thing: where to plant your feet so they can carry you far, far away. And your legs obey. The formation breaks. Experienced soldiers, veterans of dozens of battles, who have seen death in many forms, who can hold a shield steady even when everything inside screams run. These soldiers run because an elephant isn't a man with a sword. You know what to do with a man with a sword. With an elephant you don't. That's what a war elephant on the battlefield truly is. And that's why Carthage defeated Rome for several decades. My name is Gaius Sempronius Longus. I am 41 years old, a military tribune, 23 years in the army. And I will tell you about one decision that changed several wars, a decision not mentioned in triumphal speeches and rarely found in military treatises. Because this solution seems trivial, until you see it work. First, let's talk about the heavy toll elephants took on us. Without understanding that, you can't grasp why we even sought an answer. Rome's first encounter with war elephants was against Pyrrhus, Heraclea, 280 BC. We fielded a strong army, a good army, legionaries skilled at holding formation against any infantry, any enemy. Pyrrhus deployed 20 elephants on his flanks. The result was a rout. Not because the legionaries fought poorly, but because our cavalry, upon seeing the elephants, turned and trampled its own infantry. The elephants then entered the ensuing chaos. 6,000 Roman soldiers died in a single day. Osculum. Again, Pyrrhus. Again, elephants. Again, the same outcome. We lost another 6,000. Pyrrhus, by the way, also suffered heavy losses. Hence the expression Pyrrhic victory. You've probably heard it. But we lost the field. Again. Then came Carthage. The Carthaginians used elephants more cleverly than Pyrrhus. Pyrrhus deployed elephants head-on, a crude, straightforward approach. The Carthaginians kept elephants on the flanks and released them at the opportune moment, when our cavalry was already engaged and had nowhere to retreat. Trebia, 218 BC, again elephants, again a rout, again thousands dead. Lake Trasimene. Cannae. At Cannae, there were almost no elephants. Hannibal solved the problem differently, through encirclement. But before Cannae, elephants had already taken a significant toll on us. And this is when Rome began to think. Not immediately. Rome thinks slowly, but it thinks thoroughly. Several years passed just to honestly acknowledge the problem, to admit that the best army in the world didn't know what to do with an animal that weighed 3 tons and didn't understand the word halt. We tried various things. Pits with stakes in front of the lines. Elephants simply went around them. Long spears wielded by special units aiming for the belly. It worked sometimes, not always, and it cost these units losses we didn't want to incur every time. Fire on the road. Elephants walked through fire if the Mahout was experienced enough. Noise, trumpets, drums, shouts. Elephants didn't react. They were trained. Nothing worked reliably. And then we started digging through the parchments. That's a story in itself. How Roman military tribunes and legates suddenly became almost scholars. They unearthed old dispatches. They read Greek historians. They questioned elders, veterans of past wars, merchants who had seen elephants in the East, Greeks who had served Hellenistic kings. They questioned them for a long time, methodically, and they found it. In Alien, a Greek author who wrote about the nature of animals, one sentence, short, almost an aside. Elephants, Alien wrote, dislike pigs. They recoil from their squeals. They cannot stand their smell. That was it. One sentence. No explanation. No details. It seemed like an old wives' tale, like the stories old soldiers tell over wine, about how one man defeated 100 enemies or how the gods intervened at the right moment. Beautiful. Untrue. But there were no other options. So we started testing. We found people who kept elephants, in menageries, at temples, in the courts of wealthy individuals. We brought in pigs. We watched what would happen. The elephants recoiled. Not all of them. Not always. But often enough to realize there was something to it. Young elephants reacted more strongly. Old, trained ones reacted less so. But they did react. Why? No one knew. No one truly knows even now. Something in the squeal. Something in the smell. Some sound frequency that an elephant perceives differently than everything else. Nature arranged it that way, and that was enough. The old wives' tale turned out to be true. And then the real work began, because knowing that elephants are afraid of pigs is one thing. Using that knowledge in battle is quite another. A battlefield is not a menagerie. There's noise, dust, thousands of people, horses, commands, counterattacks. How, in this chaos, do you orchestrate an encounter between an elephant and a pig at the right moment and in the right place? We thought about it for several years. We arrived at a simple solution. Like all good solutions, it's simple once you see it. Pigs are kept in the baggage train behind the third line. Not a dozen, 3 or 4 dozen. Ordinary pigs. The quartermaster grumbles that they need to be fed. Let him grumble. When the enemy deploys elephants, the pigs are released forward through gaps in the lines. They're smeared with pitch. And we wait. We don't drive the pigs towards the elephants. That wouldn't work. A pig isn't a dog. It won't go where it's directed. We simply release them burning. The pigs run on their own, in different directions, unpredictably, squealing. The smell travels faster than the pigs themselves. The elephants sense it. They stop. And here's the most crucial moment. We don't need the elephant to immediately run away. We need the elephant to hesitate, to slow down, to break its stride. Because a war elephant at full charge is one thing. It's a battering ram of mass with a mahout maintaining direction. A war elephant that has stopped and started to turn its head is something else entirely. It's an animal listening not to its mahout, but to something deep within itself. Meanwhile, the pigs are running closer. The squealing intensifies, and the elephant turns. This is what years of persistent effort were for. This is why old tribunes read Greek parchments and question menagerie keepers. For one moment, when a 3-ton machine of death, which you cannot stop with a sword or a spear, turns on its own, and runs back, through its own lines. This is where what military dispatches refer to as disruption of enemy formations begins. To a person standing 100 paces away, it looks different. A frightened war elephant is a catastrophe for the side it's fighting for. 3 tons of panic, without direction, without brakes. The mahout shouts, the elephant doesn't hear. The mahout strikes, the elephant doesn't feel it. The elephant only feels that it must get away from that sound and that smell as quickly as possible. It charges through the infantry, its own infantry, which moments ago stood in formation, awaiting the signal to attack. The line. Breaks, not from our attack, but from the impact of its own elephant. The cavalry recoils. Horses also sense the elephant's panic. It's contagious. Commanders shout. They are unheard. Behind one elephant, a second turns. Behind the second, a third. And what was an organized army with a powerful trump card on its flanks just a minute ago becomes chaos where their own men are trampled by their own. I saw this at Thapsus. The enemy deployed elephants on their left flank. Good ones, large ones, with howdahs. Our commander, I won't name him, he knows who he is, gave the order beforehand. 30 pigs in the baggage train. Ordinary, unremarkable. When the elephants advanced, the pigs were released through the third line. I stood in formation and saw it from a distance of 200 paces. The elephants stopped. That was the first thing. They just stopped, as if they had hit an invisible wall. Then the first one, the largest, leading the center, swayed, turned its head, took a step back. Then it ran. Then the others. In 3 minutes, the enemy's left flank ceased to exist. Not because we attacked it, but because its own elephants had trampled through it on their way back. But there's a detail that must be understood here. A mahout is not just a person who sits on top and holds on. It's a specially trained individual with a particular tool. When an elephant completely loses control, when no commands work anymore and the elephant is destroying everything around it, the mahout is obligated to make a decision. One decision. This is the ancient world. It is brutal. But the rules are simple and clear. A mahout who failed to make that decision in time was more guilty of his soldiers' deaths than any enemy. The best mahouts made it quickly. Those who hesitated later explained it in court, if they survived. After Thapsus, we lost fewer men than in any other major battle over the previous 20 years. We lost all the pigs, but pigs in the baggage train cost less than legionaries in formation. That's arithmetic any quartermaster understands, even the one who grumbled about feeding them. Now, about why this didn't become Rome's primary weapon forever. Because a good weapon always prompts a counter-response. Intelligent enemies quickly understood what had happened. Antigonus, after Megara, the first known use of pigs against elephants, ordered piglets to be kept with every young elephant, to accustom them from birth, so that the smell and squeal would become familiar. This worked, partially. Older elephants raised alongside pigs reacted less strongly, but young, untrained ones always reacted. And then, opponents with elephants simply ran out. Carthage fell. Pyrrhus had long been dead. Hellenistic kingdoms were absorbed into Rome or disappeared. Elephants migrated to circuses and arenas. The war elephant became a rarity, and then merely history. The pigs remained in the baggage train. The quartermaster continued to grumble. And this is what I think about when I read the triumphal inscriptions on the forum, about the eagles, about valor, about the invincibility of the legions. All of that is true, but so is something else. A few men spent several years reading old parchments and questioning menagerie keepers, and testing what seemed like a fairy tale. They found an answer that appeared trivial. They applied it, and won several battles that they might otherwise have lost. Triumphal speeches don't mention this. They talk about the eagles, not about the pigs, though the pigs did their job no worse than the eagles.